Swizz, so you got everybody. I mean, you got, Grammy Awards, and you work with Kanye, you work with Hove, you built a label, all the things that you've done as a creative artist. Why did you go to Harvard? Why did you go to Harvard in your 30s?
Because I wasn't as smart as I thought I was.
How
You
did you
know,
know that? No, we're gonna break Swizz. We're gonna break this down. There are people watching this. They're looking at you. They want to be the next Swizz Beatz. How did you know the self-awareness that you were not as smart as you thought you were?
I was making a lot. Well, one, I was doing mergers and acquisitions with different companies based on the relationships that I had. And I remember going into those meetings endlessly, excited about the partnership, excited about the money I'm gonna make from it. But when I would walk in that room, whether I had a suit on, no jewelry, no diamonds, Kasim Deem on my name tag, they just always put me back in this box of like being a musician from the Bronx, whether it's Grammy nominated or whatever you want to call it. Why I couldn't just be Kasim Dean in that room? They would only talk about like musical things, and I'm like, this is not a musical conversation we're having about this company or period. And
Mm-hmm.
the first thing that hit me was what we like to use in our culture a lot is the race card. It's like, oh, they doing that because I'm black, and then I just didn't want that to be an excuse. So I started asking some other people um, why they think that was happening. And one of my friends, who's super big person, said, "Swizz, I don't think it's a racial thing. I think that they know that you don't understand the language, so they don't want to offend you. So they're talking about things that you can comprehend." And that shit
Ooh,
just made so
you
much
lost
sense
your
to me.
shit.
What? Like I couldn't. And by the way, I was in the air when I was having this conversation, and he said, there's a class that you can take. Um, it's called OPM, Owners President Management. It's at Harvard. It's a very hard class to get in, but you should try it. This will help you with your situation. And I called Monique from the plane. I was like, look up everything for this class immediately. Um, Harvard turned me down 3 times. And the last time I tried, they turned it down, and then they called back in 2 hours and said that a spot opened up. And to get in this class, you had to be a part of a company that earns 300 and something million a year. So at this time, I was a shareholder in Monster Electronics. At that time, I was the only shareholder besides outside shareholder at that time, which made me eligible to take this owner's president management class. That class was amazing. The 3 years I did was super amazing, but I took another class called Launching New Ventures, was only 3 weeks. Now that class, that's where I built No Commissions from. That's where I built the layout for the Dean Collection. That's where I built, the thought behind verses, the way that we doing things. That right there. That class showed me a lot. But going back
I
to the
got
initial,
Swizz. So hold on one second. I'm sorry. I gotta just. He's telling everybody everything. I mean, I got goosebumps. You're telling everybody everything. You're not hiding it like they hid it from
nah,
you, like they hid it from me. We got to give it all.
yeah,
I remember Jay said something years ago, man. He was on 106 in Park, and he says, my job is to open the door and leave it open so everybody can come in. That's what you're doing right now.
I love doing that.
Say the class again, Swizz. Say the class again. What's the class in three
Launching
weeks that got you lit?
lit. It's called Launching New Ventures. And if you want to warm up before launching new ventures, you get a book called The Lean Startup. It shows you how to start your business up and be lean about it and give you great examples. So read the Lean Startup and then go online and see how you can apply for launching new ventures.
Just warm up this microwave oven to get
Yeah, just warm it up.
get this.
Just get in mode, you know?
Yeah,
Just get in mode on
I
the
get
ass.
I get it and I understand. So you come out of that and you now have everything that you've done in music. You don't lose an ounce of your creativity, obviously. And now you're applying business acumen at the highest level, and you're walking in those same rooms. What's happening now when you walk in those rooms, Swizz?
Well, first of all, I got kicked out of every school in the Bronx, which is why I had to migrate to Atlanta and had a hard time there. It never was for academic reasons. It was just uh, street reasons and just, the lay of the land. But to be able to complete OPM and then also have a case study done on me was a true blessing because, they're now teaching my story in Harvard to the masses. And I never thought that, you know, my life can be taught to other students at a school like that or in a school period because my life it didn't start out as the best thing, and that's why I always say sky's not the limits, it's just the view. Why should the skies be our limits? There's footprints on the moon. They want you to think the sky's the limits, but come on, man, we know that there's other worlds out there and we have to explore those things, you know. So before you get to the next question, I just wanted to just say that part right there because that was like a real
Swizz,
serious part.
what I want, Swizz, the goal here is for you, honestly, you know, my biggest thing is I went to 5 different colleges and dropped out of 5 different colleges. And um, I, I feel like, as regular can get, but it was, things I've learned through life experiences and being told no and going through the crash course that hip hop provided me that's taught me resourcefulness and the things that I know now. And I feel like everybody has that opportunity in front of them. At least I want to believe that. I want to really believe that. And formalized education is fantastic, but nothing beats understanding the value of resourcefulness. Nothing. I remember when I first started my business, I'd say to people, you know what to do, just make it happen. I used to hear Andre Harrell say that all the time. The late, great Andre Harrell say, make it happen. And I'm like, I understand exactly what that means. But I know
Yeah,
when you say that to certain people, they look at you with a confused face like it's an incomplete sentence. And I'm like, that's a complete thought. Make it happen is a complete thought. You're
big time.
saying you made it happen. You got told on the plane, the disrespect was real.
Real.
Somebody told you a class about Harvard. You got turned down 3 times, and you figured it out. And you figured it out.